Hey, love.
How are you?
I'm good.
That's good. I had a good day today.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
What made it so good?
The weather is changing.
The weather is
Spring
changing.
is in the air. The leaves are starting to flourish.
I haven't gotten that far, but the buds are in the air.
I mean, for me, when I start seeing the buds, the leaves are there too. You know what I mean?
I like to be particular about
No, I
things.
like to be way ahead. I'm already anticipating the pinks and the cherry blossom and all of that because I'm a spring baby. So I'm really looking forward to it. And then the mood change. People are more interesting. People are more eager to get together, to get out, to explore, to socialize. So I look forward to that. It's a good time.
It's a time of renewal.
Yes, it's a time of renewal, and is close to our anniversary.
Well, there is that. I'm
Yes,
thrilled.
yes.
No pressure.
No pressure, no pressure.
Yeah, no biggie.
You know what I found myself doing recently?
What?
Playing a lot of the songs that I was playing like when we were getting ready for the wedding and stuff. And it's like, I don't even know why. Like, I didn't realize it until recently. I was like, why am I like all into these? And I was like, oh yeah. It's like, it reminds me of just like that time, There was a lot going on, but it was also very exciting. So yeah.
There's a lot
It's
going
a
on.
good time of the year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so. All right, so renewal. So today's topic is going to be how to renew a relationship or how to renew trust.
Yeah.
I did some reading this morning. One of the people I follow, and he made the point that your character is your set of values, right? And the set of values that you have, that's how you know, it's part of who I am to you. Mm-hmm. And that gives you the courage and just I guess the trust to move forward in a relationship. Mm-hmm. And whenever I do something that breaks or violates that trust, I feel from my perspective, once I come to you and I say, hey love, I'm so sorry, or I did this, and I apologize, like in my mind, like that's good enough. Like we're back to before I ever broke her trust, or did damage to the relationship. But after doing the reading this morning, I really understood the fact that, when for a woman, especially, guys I think guys are a little bit different, but for a woman especially, it's when you break their trust, when you do something big or small, when that trust is broken, regardless of if you've had 10 years of a perfect track record, the first time, or as soon as you do that, whether it's the first or the 20th time, every time it takes that account balance all the way back down to zero, like completely to zero. And then from that moment forward, it's making consistent small deposits back into it in order to slowly reestablish trust. And then eventually over time you get back to where you were, where you're like, I don't even blink about it, I know Rock has got it, that's not going to happen again, that type of thing.
Yeah, I think that we've had a little bit of challenges because I was always, we've had, and it's never been anything major. It's been, and I always felt like maybe that's why you never looked at it the way I look at it, because it would be minor things. And I would say to you that, you would apologize, but I would also look forward to you building your character and taking a little bit more accountability. And I think that it was always difficult because you would get a little bit agitated, due to the fact that you apologize, you understand you made a mistake and we should be on good terms. While I accept your apology, but I'm also looking at how you're moving forward. What steps are you taking to ensure that I am, I feel safe and I have the courage to continue to pour in 100%, into that relationship. Just like you, when I was reading earlier today, one of the things that struck me was that a relationship is not bringing 50-50. A relationship is everybody bringing in 100% and putting in 100%. And so I've always taken that as a very as a very strong way of kind of I've looked at that as the tenet of our relationship, is that every day I'm going to give you 100%, no matter what. And I'm not looking at what you're giving in, because that's just, it shouldn't be based on what you bring in. Does that make any sense? Like my 100% is what is supposed to be, regardless of if you're putting in 100%. You know,
does that apply if like the day before we like had a fight or an argument and you're still like upset with me? Are you still bringing 100%, or is it?
I think I even bring 200% then, because at that point, I am anticipating that, okay, we're not in a good space and we need to get back to where we were. We need to get back to solid ground. And so let me make sure you understand that I am for building, you know, that I'm willing to process whatever it is that we are struggling with. I'm willing to work and to work on me and my part. And usually my hope is that when I do that, that would motivate you. You know, when I was bodybuilding, one of the most interesting thing was when we all go to the gym together, right? It would be me, you know, my coach, and, you know, maybe 2 or 3 other friends, you know, and then we're all bodybuilders and we're all training. When somebody gives 100%, and sometimes you're coming in and your only job, like you're just coming in because, okay, this is the day that we're doing legs, and you really don't have it in you. But when you see somebody on that leg press and they are giving 1, 2, 3, 4, and the excitement, it encourages you. You know what I mean? And it pushes you. So when they bring in their 100%, it motivates you to bring in your 100% and to get outside of yourself and to now say, hey, I'm doing this for the team. I'm doing this for us. Like, I can't fail the team, you know? And I feel like that's the same thing with marriages. Sometimes you don't have 100% to give, but by watching me give my 100%, it encourages you. It motivates you to dig deep and to find that, you know, 100% and pour it in. And I've always felt like that's how it is. Like, it's a partnership. We're in it together. And I'm aware that every day you're not going to be able to bring in 100%, but you're going to want to. You're going to be willing. And my attitude towards you that day, my attitude towards us that day can encourage you to bring your best. It may not be 100%, but it will be your 100% for that day. You know?
Yeah, I see. I feel like over the past year I've gotten a lot better with the idea of partnership. You know, when we got like even like right before we got married, especially after we got married, you know, it really came home because the honeymoon was over, like literally, and it was, all right, you know, we're married now, like, all right, where are we going with this, and like, how are we planning this out? You're the husband, you know, and it was a matter of kind of like.
I think I asked you, what does the cast home stand for?
Yeah, you asked me for, and that rocked me a bit because I was like, okay. And it was really that kind of one of those like, this is like, there's no one, there's no coach to call, there's no therapist to call, there's no best friend. Like, it's you and your wife, and that's it. It's just you guys trying to figure out like, what is your life together as partners? Like, you have this chance to form this unique, extremely intimate personal relationship, and there's no right or wrong way of doing it, but you get that 51% vote because it's a partnership. But when it comes time for certain hard questions, it's like, tag, you're it, hon. You're like, say what? Oh, my business plan, let me get right on that. So that's one thing we talk about a lot in our relationship is like our roles, what's expected. So coming from the point of, you know, how do I repair, you know, especially for me, I usually am the one who will make more mistakes in the relationship in regards to.
Maybe I make mistakes.
Well, you make mistakes, but you know, women.
I think oftentimes, every time we speak, you are always putting yourself at a point. It's always like, oh, I'm the bad person, and I'm making all of the mistakes. And
it's not that.
You forgive me a lot. Like you.
I mean, what's not to forgive? I mean, you're very forgivable. Look, okay, maybe that's not may not be true for your relationship, but for my relationship, one of the things I'm very passionate about, and I feel like more military guys got to talk about this, is that I feel like there's a lot of military guys who are not in touch with their feelings. They're not like super focused. Like we don't have that. I feel like by and large we don't have that skill set. And I feel pretty confident in saying that because when you look at how many of us are divorced, how many of us have 2-3 marriages while we're in our military career, how many times we have multiple baby mamas, with all this family drama, all this relationship drama that we have, and there's so many norms that are known. If you're in the military, you know that culture. Like there's things that are laughable. You're like, you just know that at some point it's going to come up in your career, or you're going to see it when you're soldiers if you're a leader. And part of that is you're going to have a dysfunctional family life. Why? Because you're not there. You're deployed. You're gone. You work 10-hour days. You're whatever. And when you are home, you have a wife who's been stuck with the kids all day. She hasn't seen you. Now you got to handle everything because she couldn't talk to you. You weren't able to talk on the cell phone. You were able to text all day. So she's got to solve everything in that couple hours of time you have between like 1700, which is 5 p.m. to like maybe 2100, 9 o'clock. And then where's the time to really have the romance? Let's go to therapy and all this other stuff. It's just not there. Like our finances are taken care of. You have health insurance, the food on the table, like the basics of the husband's job is met. However, and there's no solid class of like, let's get in touch with our feelings. Let's communicate. What's the best way to apologize? Hey babe, I'm sorry. In the military, you mess up, you say, hey, you know what? My bad. What's my penalty? All right, go do whatever it is. You're good. Slate's clean. Let's go. In a marriage, it don't work that way. I say, babe, I'm sorry. Like, I messed up. I fucked up. I'm sorry. Like, can you forgive me? And we talk about it. Like, all right, cool. And she's like, all right, I love you. I forgive you, bet. Like, I'm like, bet. In my mind, we're back like this. I don't know that this is the bank account. It just went right to the bottom. And now I got to slowly put it. And like, that's the thing that kind of clicked for me today is I really have to.
I mean,
Wait, I got more. I'll lose that thought. I don't want to lose a thought.
That's
like,
okay. I'm sorry about
the
that.
other part is like when you understand, and this is one thing I've recently kind of figured out about my wife, which after 5 freaking years, I just figured this out. She literally is the type who wants me to ask her, hey love, the other day when I did A, B, or C, how did that make you feel that I did that and did it again, like maybe the 100th time, not on purpose, but to you, the fact that it's happened over 100 times, we've talked about it, and it bothers you, and I keep doing it, I keep violating you in that particular way, how does that make you feel, even though I am remorseful every time, but it still happens?
I think that in order for anybody to change, they really have to understand what is the violation, right? Like, what is it that they did? So saying sorry is just saying sorry. But I think for anybody, you're always looking at the person and you're trying to figure out, okay, now what next? It's just like a job, right? When you do something, they put you on the pit. So you just don't go to the manager and say, I'm sorry, I've been late 10 times and it's okay. You are on the performance, plan, right? Performance improvement plan. And your job is to show that you are aware that being late is not okay. Your job is to prove to the manager that I am worthy of this job. I can be trusted with this job. I can, you can depend on me and I will show it to you by, out of 10 times, I will make sure that I'm on time, if at least 9, if not all the 10 times. So it's no different than what you're asking for your partner in a relationship. Saying sorry is just saying sorry. And so I started to ask you, I think you just want to say sorry just so you can get out of it, but I don't really think you understand the gravity of what you're doing, And when we first started dating, I was like, 1 time, okay, 2 times, okay, 3 times. And I was like, it is a habit. Like and you are good at saying sorry. I mean, your sorries would have a woman, even having me wet, because I'm like, God, you that sorry? Like, okay, cool, you never do it again. And then the next day, I'm like, oh man, like this is
interesting. The cash.
The difference is that the way you show up for me in so many ways, there was just, I knew there was something that didn't click. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to get you to see that saying sorry. I appreciate it. I never wanted you to feel like, oh, it's like just because you said sorry, like I didn't want you to feel like your apology didn't matter. But I needed you to understand that it wasn't enough. And the more you're consistently doing it and you're not taking accountability and you're not really trying to figure out how to do better, it is hurting me, and it's damaging my trust. It's making me question whether or not this is worth my investment, because I'm investing my life with you. I don't get the 5 years that we have, spent together. I don't get those back. I can't take that and go to somebody new and say, well, I got my 5 years back, so I can invest that with you. You don't. What I do go with, is maybe the lessons that I've learned. And so I wanted you to really understand that, because I am intentionally investing, with you. I'm an extremely imperfect person. I am such an imperfect creature, but I am so perfect for God, because I know He loves me, and I know that He gives me the opportunity to renew myself, daily. And I was always, I've ever since I was growing up. First of all, I grew up in an African, family in African culture, and I didn't really grow up with an example of happy marriages. The woman's role was not attractive. And in my mind, I was like, this is like jail. Like, there is no difference. It's like you get married and your job is to have sex, have kids, cook, clean, make sure he's happy, and you get criticized for almost everything.
And be silent.
And there was nothing attractive, so I was like, oh, I'm not gonna get married. But when I was growing up, in my teen and 20, I was like, you know what? I'll get married if I find love. And so that, and then I also knew that if I find love, I have to keep that love. I have to work to make sure that every day that love is there, And I wanted to be able to share that with you and to let you know your cup is empty. You got to pour some more in. Like, I accept your apology, but you've got to do work. It's not that simple. You have to do work. Saying sorry is not enough. And it started to cause some friction because you thought I was ungrateful or just maybe too harsh and maybe too stern and this and that. And I was like, no, I have to trust my husband. It is a must. I have to respect you. It is a must. I love you, but that's not enough. Yeah, and that's where we are.
And I would say that, I often have problems with Michelle in regards to how I say things, not what I say. Because what I'm saying is usually, in a lot of cases, is correct, but it's the tone and the energy behind how I'm saying something. I can be very, very flippant sometimes, and very, or just very dismissive on how I say things. Almost like I'm talking to one of the boys, like, because with this world that we're in, we work remote, we're together 24/7, and there are times when, and for me, I compartmentalize my life. There's times where I'm not in like husband mode. I'm just being myself. And then there's times when we're like, oh, I'm specifically like, I'm trying to be in husband mode. And where I talk to Michelle, and Michelle's like, babe, you're in husband mode 24/7. There's no cutoff. It's always on. I'm like, no, it's not always on. But, and so I'm slowly reconciling those, and you would think over 5 years I would have it down. Like, no, it's still very much coming. I could be argumentative at times over stupid stuff. And my wife will look at me and be like, really, Takaz? I'll be like, yeah, details matter. So
I think our relationship is so interesting because as a nurse practitioner, as a nurse, I worked a lot with veterans. and we will have conversations, and these are good men. You know, you're talking to them and you feel their energy and you know they mean well, but they are so misunderstood. They are so misunderstood in their marriages, in the community. They feel, they feel pushed away. And I wanted to honor them. You know, first of all, I was like, I cannot marry a vet because there was a lot that comes with them, so I don't even know how we ended up together, but I respect what they give to the world, I respect what they stand for. And now, particularly because I have a brother serving, I am even more, willing and wanting to understand what it means to sacrifice so much of your life, especially your youth, to a country, and to come out in society and want to reintegrate in and really find your space. So because I had that background, I was a lot more kinder and a lot more understanding. And another thing that I did when we met is I intentionally built a strong friendship with your sister, who is also a veteran. Hey, Jilly, love you so much, and thank you for taking the time to really get to know me, because it has changed my relationship. Because I know I can make a phone call and be like, look, you need to talk to your brother. But anyways, that's a different conversation.
It's not fair. That's not playing fair. Like, you can't call my big sis. Like,
I sure can. She listens, and she's fair.
She sure
but
does.
Anyways, I was able to I would speak with Jill, often, to really understand what that life, look like, and what it could be like, and how I can best support you, how I can best understand you, and I think a lot of times in our relationship, I always wanted you to know, look, I'm a very strong person. I come off strong. I love strong. I speak very strong. And sometimes people have a difficulty understanding if I'm angry, if I'm upset, if I'm loving, if I'm kind. And I'm working on it, y'all. Like, I'm really working on it, because I know I have hurt some people unintentionally with just my tenacity, with my tone, and being way too passionate about a topic or about something while having a conversation. But anyways, one of the biggest things in our relationship was I wanted to make sure that you understand I'm always coming from love. I'm always coming from growth. Everything that I do, I'm always like, hey, how is this going to affect you 5 years from now? And that's because I've made some terrible decisions in my life. I mean, I can't take it back, but I'm grateful that I learned through it. And because of that, I'm aware that everything you do, whatever you decide to do today, it will have consequences. It will trickle down. And you have to be willing to live with those and to work through those. And so I'm a lot more careful. I'm a lot more aware of the decisions that I make and how that can, potentially hurt me down the road or hurt somebody else or whatever the case is. And so, yeah, I want us to talk things through. Sometimes you're like, no, we don't need to talk about it. And, you run away from things that are a lot difficult. But I'm always like, that's exactly what we need to talk about. That's exactly what we need to process. And remember, baby, you are processing it with your best friend. I will love you. I will hug you. As a matter of fact, I will hold your hand as we're processing it.
And she has to remind me of that sometimes. Because sometimes, look, I love my wife dearly, but she is a nurse practitioner and she's in mental health. And I have mental issues. So
I think we all do.
Well, we do. But I'm a particular case of hard-headedness. So with that, like, it's been interesting to really like understand the fact that, as we've been going through this past year of what does it mean to be married, what does it mean to be in a relationship, that there's no exit window, there's no divorce. It was like, nah, we're gonna make this work. We're gonna put in the time, do the work to make this relationship work successfully, because a relationship can work and be unsuccessful. You could have like a typical DC marriage where it's all about, hey, we look great on the outside, but on the inside we're like sleeping in separate beds and we just whatever, have our own life separate, but we put on a good show.
DC, that's worldwide. That's
well,
just
worldwide,
successful marriages.
Okay, all right, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. So I would normally argue with her there, but I've learned. So, but no, it's just that idea of like we want to have a real authentic marriage, and that means for me doing what I absolutely despise, sitting in uncomfortable, emotionally charged conversations and talking through them, which takes my whole body to control, and just sit there and just be like, all right, cool. I've gotten better over the years, and it's a process. And I feel like the more we talk about things, the more I start to see it from like, it's not a judgment, it's a partnership thing, and it's a you and me, it's a us thing. But then lately, as we're also looking at things from a different perspective, like through maybe a scriptural, you put a little bit of more like some Bible vision on it. Like, all right, the world operates a certain way, and the way it's working, it's not working successfully for most marriages. 50% end in divorce. So, all right, so maybe we need to base this on faith. So having more of a faith-based perspective, we've been incorporating more of that in our marriage. And so there's difference between religion and your own practice, your own beliefs. So we're pulling the best out, and we're looking at it, and we're like, all right, based upon this, how can this be beneficial to our marriage without being, legalistic about it or religious about it? And those tenets are starting to, they make a difference. It helps me change the way I have conversations with, especially when you're like, Rock, I need you to be the head of the household, or if you're gonna be the head of this family, you got to be able to talk about, you can't run away. You got to sit in the emotion. You got to talk through it, even if it's uncomfortable. Even if you'd rather be like, I'd rather put this in a box and just dismiss it, or just downplay it and be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Like, no, we really got to talk through this, because because like for you, and I alluded this to earlier, coming to Michelle and say, hey babe, this happened the other day, even though we'd already talked through it, for me it's like reopening that Pandora's box and pulling out that emotion and saying, hey, I failed you here. My trust account is at 0. I want to talk about it. How does that make you feel today? And it's almost like the more my wife talks about it, and she's able to let me know her hurt and pain about whatever I did or said, that caused a reaction or breaking of trust, essentially. Like, just being able to talk about it over and over, as time goes by, not in like a nagging way, but in a way to process each time it's almost like each time you talk about it, it gets a little bit easier, it gets a little bit more. And the longer you go without having re-violated or done that thing, it makes it I guess it reestablishes good faith, good energy, trust.
It allows me to feel safe, and it allows me to know that you understand what you did wrong, and even if it occurs again, you are able to fix it right away or in a shorter amount of time. And it lets me know, because I don't expect you to just be perfect. It takes time for us to work on whatever it is that we're working on. We're human. And so I give you grace because I give myself grace, and I give you grace because I need grace from you, But with that, I still need to know that you are aware of it and you're actively working on it. It's just like, again, I'll go back to the example at work. Yes, you may be late. If you're used to coming late, if you're used to coming in late, like let's say 10 to 15 minutes, and now it's going to, 5 minutes. As a manager, I can be like, okay, you're making progress, but you've got to do better. I can at least acknowledge that there is progress, and then it gives me a lot more, it gives me the opportunity to maybe also help you. I'm willing to pour into that cup a lot more because I know you are aware of it. I know you are making the progress. You may not know how, and maybe there is a strategy that I'm utilizing that helps me, that I can teach you. And prior to a couple of years ago, I couldn't even get you to learn my strategies. It was like, you want to do it your way and you're still failing. And I'm like, you don't have to be that stubborn. You just don't.
Yeah, I mean, like honestly, like for me, is like we've gotten to the point now. Like once I can identify, once I can start to identify myself and see where I'm going wrong, in, either in a conversation or my actions. It's really like it starts with awareness. So I feel like then I can stop myself from going into a situation or being able to recognize, hey, I just broke her trust again in this way. I mean, and when I say trust, I mean it could be as simple as me, responding in an unloving way. That it's not terrible, but it's also just not like a loving husband should respond. I mean, like like what? Like what do you mean what? Like, hey babe, what can I do for you? Oh, hey, yeah, give me just a sec. Like I can't do it right now. Like it's like a tone. Like I guess it's like your tonality and also just hey. You're talking to a precious woman. You're talking to a very special, hard to find gift. Like that's what a woman is. She's a blessing. She's a gift. Like a good woman who's someone you want to build with. And if she's your wife, she better always be a special gift. So you're stuck like Chuck. So, but I mean,
I hope you're not stuck. I hope you are.
Well, figure of speech. You see, it's not. It's how you say, not what you say. What I mean to say, love, is that gorgeous woman that you're with, she's a blessing. And no matter what, one should always speak with her in a courteous tone and treat her like the queen she is. And that may not always be the case, but at least be cordial and kind and come. It really comes down to energy. So what you focus on expands. So if you start your day off in a focused meditation, Bible study, whatever it is that gets you centered first thing in the day, I find the more time I make time to get up and be peaceful in the morning, the better and more loving and the better version of myself I'm able to give to my wife and to the rest of the world because of taking that time to be centered and start my day off, in a better place, having time for myself. And then that lowers the amount of times I find myself apologizing and asking for forgiveness, which is, after a while, it just becomes, they lose trust. And that's the whole point. You want to rebuild trust. Well, rebuilding trust is being consistently not inconsistent. So this is the best way I could put it. Being consistently not inconsistent. So in the way that matters. And every time you take the time to go back and be like, all right, I effed up here, and here a couple days ago. It's time I check in with my wife and see how is she feeling. And if you're dating someone or whoever your partner is, taking time to check in with your partner and ask them, how do you feel about that situation? One, it's acknowledging, look, I realize the hurt, and I think that's probably the most significant part. I realize the hurt is not over. That it's not just, I'm not dismissing it like it never happened. You're taking, because by doing that, you're initiating that conversation. They get a recap any feelings that they have about it or insights, and then that point is talked through, and then you can move on with your day. One, you're getting points in the, hey, you're building up in your account a little bit to the mistrust, and two, it's showing that, hey, you know what? He cares, she cares, it matters to them. It wasn't, and they're trying to be more cognizant of it. And I think that goes a long ways towards reestablishing, trust and like that feeling of, okay, we're growing in the right direction. It's not perfect, but it's always a constant practice.
I think, I mean, one of the biggest thing for me is I can't even, I'm not saying, I lead by example. And when I say that, I really demonstrate exactly what I am expecting. So when I hurt you, when the tables are turned, I do that. I sit with you and I have those conversations, because I want to know, how do you feel, or I know that I did this thing to you last week and I know that this happened. And I know that I'm showing and I'm making the effort to gain your trust. And I want to make sure that you are okay. I want to make sure that you don't feel ignored and you don't feel that I don't care about your emotions. It's different, for men and women, because usually you're like, baby, I'm good, like that. Oh, I'm that's cool. And it usually bothers me a lot because I'm like, I want to talk. I want you to know that I'm
wanna
so
talk.
sorry. I didn't mean it. Like, I really care, you know?
To
And
me,
you're
to,
like,
to me,
that's
that's
over.
to me, that's a minefield. That's just bringing up a minefield. Like, there's no reason to go back in that minefield. We made it out successfully. That's a good mission. She's like, no, we're gonna go back in that minefield. Be like, man, I'm so sorry this happened. We're standing in a field of mines. Get out. It's okay. It's okay. Everybody, just come on, evacuate the area.
So what you're saying is that if a woman hurts a man, you know, and she apologizes, and it's okay to not.
This is a very important point. I'm very glad you brought this up. Us men, we're very straightforward. She said, baby, I'm so sorry to do that to you. Bet. All right, cool. So when the tables are reversed, I can't believe you did that again, Rock. I'm so sorry, babe. All right, I love you. We're good. We're not going back. We're going forward, but we're different.
But I mean, I feel like we do go forward, right? But the fact is that you make. I mean, in our relationship, I don't know about anybody else, baby. You make the same mistake over and over and over and over and over, and I'm like, okay.
And I feel just as bad every time. And it's only when something finally clicks that she's like, look. Like, usually it's like an emotional or someone else will make a good point, and I'll be like, oh damn, so that's what you've been telling me the past 250 times. I'm so sorry. She's like, nigga. I'm like, what? I just got it. I was like,
I've learned to
I'm
be
like
patient.
thumbs up, and she's like, God save me. She starts praying. That's when she starts praying. She's like, Lord. I'm like, In my mind, I'm like, thumbs up.
I think that God
took too
also
long.
sent you because I needed to learn and work on my patience, you know,
Right.
because I used to just not get it, but because of how much you love me, I know that I blame the military. Like, I really blame y'all because I still don't understand. There are certain things that I just don't understand. So I just
I'm
blame
not
the
saying I'm the
military.
rule. I'm not saying that I'm the rule. I could be the outlier. I was an officer. I'm still an officer. You never not be an officer. So that commission's for life as far as I'm concerned. And the wife is like, you're not. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
In my
so
mind, I'm like, oh.
yeah. So that's where we are. I mean, he apologizes a lot. I always accept his apology.
He's the roughest person. I mean, can you imagine me with something? And look, we're gonna wrap this up. We're trying to do shorter episodes, have more focus. But this woman, I love this woman dearly. Like, we'll do an episode on this eventually. But God gives you what you need, not what you want. I needed someone to be what my wife had been, my girlfriend, my fiance had been up until the point that led us to the point of marriage. And I needed someone who would see through my bullshit and call me out on it, because I respected that. Because I didn't have a problem. I could, you got, call it whatever. You could be a philanderer, a man whore, or whatever. Like, I could be that if I chose to be. But it wouldn't be good for me. Like, long term, it would be very bad for me, my psyche and all that other stuff. There's a lot connected to that. But I wanted someone who will call me out and be like, no, I'm holding you accountable. I'm stopping you. I mean, I always like it, but that's what I need. That's what I respect. And I respect my wife for that, because she doesn't let me get away with it. She says, this is the line. Don't trifle across it. And if you do, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to hold you accountable until you understand, this is not acceptable. We need to work on this. This is not healthy. This is not respectful. And these are things that you're like, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, okay, cool, I'm there too, yeah. And then you go trifling along and just go right across that line and be like, ah, shiza. And now it's like, well, I thought we talked about it. Like, we did, but it didn't really sink in. Didn't really resonate with me. And so, and sadly, that's where it comes down to. Like, once it finally resonates in me and it clicks, I'm like, oh, okay. Now I can be more aware. Now I can start seeing it. I can start apologizing. But until then, it's just like this vicious cycle of useless apologies. Like, they're like toilet paper. They do the job, but you always need more. So.
And God gave me you because I needed you. You know, he didn't give me what I wanted, he gave me what I needed. I needed someone with as much love that you have. You have so much love to give. It's amazing. You are able to love me past my pain, past my trauma, past my difficult childhood, past my crazy emotions sometimes, past my frustrating job that sometimes sucks the life out of me, and I still want to pour more and more into my patients because I love what I do. And you're able to really to see that and pour into me when my cup is empty. And I needed that. I needed, you know, I can't thank you enough for how you love me. I love you, you know.
I feel the same way to her for my endless rounds of, I don't get it. Just like, you got, like, I understand your name is Rocky, but you got a hard head like a rock. Like what? I'm like,
But you know what, you know, to close it out, you know what the thing is, baby. Once it clicks, it's usually it's usually someone else or something else that has it click. Like sometimes it's something that
She's
you know
like,
they would say the
like
same thing. The same thing that I said, the same way. They will use the same words. This is the one thing I don't get, y'all. Like, I do not understand this. And Rocky would be like, oh, shit, that's what Michelle was talking about. Now I get it. Now you get it. Like, I've been talking about this. Look, we have gotten, like, I still don't understand this. Like, it happens so often. Like, I'll talk to Rock about something and he'll do the same thing over and over. And my brother will get on the phone and be like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And he'd be like, oh, yeah, your sister, she told me this. And that's what she meant. I'm like, babe, he used the same words. He literally used the same analogy. Like, how is it different?
I think there's like a filter in a guy's mind. There's certain things, like, it's unfortunate, but that radio station is always on. It's always going. And just some things there's a big hole right in the middle.
I blame the military. I swear, I just do. Like, I blame y'all for everything that he doesn't understand because it makes no sense to me. However, the way he loves deep. He loves good. He means it. He's intentional. And he shows up every day. Rocky will apologize and mean it. The thing is that you mean it. You just don't know how to reverse it and how to fix it.
Like I'm crazy.
So because of that, I'm willing to be patient. I'm willing to continue on this journey with you. You know.
All right, cool. Well, more on the journey next time.
More on the journey next time. I love you, babe.
I love you too.